What's going on, people? Welcome to One More Watch, Please. In this episode, we are talking to another watch enthusiast from California who will be showing us really interesting timepieces. So without further ado, let's dive into the conversation. Hey Nisha, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Just wrapping up the end of my day at work. So pretty good, actually. The weather's not too hot. You can probably see it's pretty sunny over here. So it's been pretty good. Summer's been pretty all right. It's starting to cool down a little bit, so not complaining.
Cool. Yeah, after all, you're in sunny California. Lucky you,
Yes.
you get sun. I think you get sun all year round.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, where I live, we do definitely get a lot of sun, but we get longer days in the summertime, so you really feel it is a summer because the sun doesn't go down till 8 p.m. and but it comes up early at like 7 o'clock, so you do get a proper long day. Yes.
Cool. Uh, so yeah, can you please tell a bit about yourself, a bit about your background, and how did you get into watch collecting hobby?
Sure. So hi, my name's Nisha. I am originally from a country called Malaysia. I've been living in the US for 11 years now, I want to say. And I'm a consultant. I work in the tech industry. So pretty much, classic Northern California, San Francisco occupation, very, very standard. And how did I get into watch collecting? I will say my family my mom especially collected a lot of watches. And, she was very much a connoisseur and kind of a gateway into watch collecting for me. However, I got into the hobby really late. I did not get into it proper until the pandemic. I wasn't really into watches. Like, I was aware of certain brands and certain things, but to be a real enthusiast, it was only in 2020, really, that I really got into the hobby.
Cool. And what have you got for us today? What watches do you want to show to the viewers? If you can
I
show
mean,
the watches one by one on the screen, and then sort of talk about the story
Sure.
behind it.
I guess I'll start with what's on my wrist. Right now, this is a latest pickup, which is something that I've wanted for a long time, and I waited maybe 3 years, I think, to actually pick it up. And this is my Nomos Metro with the power reserve. So I saw this watch, and immediately when I saw that power reserve, because the power reserve is one of my favorite complications, because I think it's practical, especially as someone who owns an automatic or a mechanical. You would like to know when your watch has run out of battery, right? So or juice. So this watch, I think the implementation of it was just so well done, and I just fell in love with it from the moment I saw it at the dealership. But I didn't have the money to get it at that moment, even though people say Nomos is pretty reasonable entry level into that type of luxury segment, right? So this was a pickup this year, and I am so happy to have it. And I will say, it does not disappoint. And I mean, Nomos, this is supposed to be a 37. It wears a little bit bigger, but very comfortable on wrist. And the Horween strap is probably one of the best I've had. Didn't have to break it in, and it's soft. So yeah, this is the first one. I will say it's the most recent that I bought.
Cool. Is Nomos a German brand, or is it a Swiss
Yes,
brand?
it is German. It's from Glashütte.
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they mostly make like dressy kind of watches, like really slim and really clean dial. Yeah,
They
I
did
really
come up with a sports range, actually, I think last year, where they had I think they call it the sports, and they introduced it in the Neomatic, and there was two lines that were introduced that were with 100 meters of water resistance. So it was a proper sports watch. So you could take it out, wear it, and do sports. And it had like a bracelet. It came with a bracelet. It wasn't on a strap. So They did introduce a sports line recently, but you are absolutely right. They were more known for their dressier watches for sure. Yes.
Yeah, I like them. I think that's definitely something I would have it in my wish list pretty soon.
Anyone in particular that you're drawn towards?
I've not researched them like in detail, but there are a few dress watches with white dial that I like. I'm not
That
sure
was
what of
another
the
reason
model.
why I bought this, because I think the white dial that they do is just one of the better ones for that segment of the market.
Yeah,
I really have an affinity for white dials, and this was one of the better ones for sure.
yeah. I think I go through phases. I'm currently into like green dials.
Okay.
I'm collecting like different shades of green dials currently.
It's very in right now, though, I will say. I mean, I've seen a lot of green dials. I think Omega just recently came out with a green and gold. Was it a Speedmaster, I think? So I think
Yeah,
they just came out with a very nice green two-tone. Yeah.
cool. What's next in the list?
I beg your pardon?
What's next in the list? Next
Oh, the
watch.
next one. Let's see. I've got my watch box next to me, so that's what I'm just trying to think. What would be interesting? Okay, maybe I'll go. Maybe I'll go micro brand. Maybe I'll go micro brand next. So I'll take. So obviously, most famous micro brand needs no introduction. Zelos.
Yeah,
So needs no introduction, right? But this one is the bronze swordfish mother of pearl dial. So unfortunately, the camera may not pick up all the different blues and things in there. But this was a pickup I got from the forum because I'm part of the Zelos Timekeeper forum. So someone was selling this, and I was like, oh my god, I wanted to pick this up, but they were sold out by the time I got to it because it's Zelos, and I wanted a bronze. I felt my collection was missing an actual bronze. I haven't owned a bronze watch in maybe a year, 2 years. So I saw this and I was like, you know what? It's going for a decent price. Just snapped it up, and I swapped the strap out. It came on a rubber originally, so this is on a different strap, which I think brings out the dressiness of the watch a lot more. I wanted it to be a bit more of a dressier piece, so that's why I swapped the strap out and I just put the tang and the buckle onto the strap, so it keeps the cohesion in that. So yeah, so that would be the second one. And again, this was also a recent pickup. I think this year I bought quite a few watches, so I think there's quite a few recent pickups in my list, I will say. Yeah.
yeah. That's a really cool watch. And then don't worry about the colors not showing up on the screen. I'll put a screenshot for
Okay.
the viewers when I do the editing.
Okay.
And I'm surprised how popular Zelos have got in the recent years. Like I'm part of the Zelos timekeepers as well, and the recent watch that they launched for the 10th anniversary, I was amazed to see that it was sold in under 3 minutes. And I was talking to one of the community members from Zelos Timekeepers called Dane, and he's also called as Mr. Zelos in that
Yep.
within
Yep. I know
that
exactly
community.
who you're referring to. Yes.
Within that community, and he was talking about one of the models that was sold within seconds, and there were only 10 pieces released, and they were sold under a minute. And I was like,
Oh.
that's amazing for a micro brand. So I
Yeah.
can't wait until I can bring the founder of Zelos on the podcast.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would be very intrigued to see, his collection and what he's got, because I think other than Elshan himself, I'm sure he has every model. I would be very surprised if he had anything missing from his
Yeah.
collection. It's difficult to get Zelos. I mean, their most recent launches, I think, outside of the 10-year anniversary, I think the Novas didn't do so well, but I think because people were expecting a little bit different from what it was. But I will say, like to quote one of our old watch YouTubers in the scene, where he says that you don't buy a Zelos for basic. You buy a Zelos for the fact that it's out there. It's very unusual. You buy it for the design language, you buy it for the dials, you buy it for all these other things that Elshan puts into it. You're not buying it if you want something that is, I hesitate to say, an everyday watch sometimes, depending on which model you buy. Like, for example, this is a swordfish field, but if you look at it, it's aside from just the numerals, it's a very dressy watch. It's very shiny. Like the picture may not pick it up, but it's a very, very shiny watch. And sometimes I have to be a bit careful, like, oh, am I being too flashy wearing this watch around? Because it just stands out. And I think that's what Elshan has done very well with his brand. Like, he's really made them, they're known for this, and this is their design language. You either like it or you don't. There's no really an in-between, I think, on Zelos.
Yeah, and I think they're about to launch a new model in few weeks.
Oh yeah, the Thresher, I think, right? I believe it's called. That's the one model I'm not very familiar with. I think when I got to know Zelos, I think it was really through the Makos thing, when I think the Thresher was one of their much older models that they had before. So I'm not too familiar with that watch, I will say.
Yeah. And I personally wouldn't mind the Nova if the dial was at least 40 millimeters. I think they are 38 millimeters dial. I think my wrist size, it fits 40 to 42 really well.
Right. So the Nova would be perfect for me because I fall between that 35 to 38 kind of thing. I can wear a 40 if the lug to lug is small. I can do that, but but most 40s tend to stick within 47, 46. If they're 46, I can wear it. But if it's a 47, it is a little too long for me, for my wrist size.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. What do we have next in the list?
Okay, so let's go. So I've done microbrand, I've done Nomos. Let's see. I'll go with a classic. Let me pick this one. This is a classic one. Or actually, maybe I'll pass on that. Maybe I'll do another one that's a bit different. This is a Formex. So, but this one is what they call, I believe, I may be butchering the name. It's called an Eisenkeisel Formex 39. This is the Essence 39, but the dial is called an Eisenkeisel, which is something to do with Firestone in German. I could be butchering the pronunciation. So this was something that I actually saw at a watch fair. So we have a watch fair in the US called Wind Up Watch Fair. I think they have one in London as well. I think they do in London or somewhere. But they had one in San Francisco that my friends and I went to, and Formex is always one of the main brands that is part of the showcase over there. And I just I went to the Formex booth. I wanted to see if they had brought anything different, because usually they may bring some newer watches to showcase just for that. And this watch was only an exclusive. You could only buy it either at the fair or at their boutique in Switzerland. I think that was how they had marketed it. And they only manufactured a limited run. So because of the nature of the dial and how to mold the dial to get it to fit into the watch, they could only do a small batch manufacture on this due to the nature of the material. So I saw this and I was very taken by it. And the one on the table, so this wasn't the one on the table, I think. The one on the table was, I think, number 13 or number 12. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, that looks so interesting. And I've always been looking at Formex, and I like their, the patented technology. Like, they have the suspension system. They have the adjustable on the butterfly clasp in their bracelet. Their bracelet's also very light, and it's very well integrated into their watches. So I've always been fascinated by how they've built technology and patents around their watchmaking. And so I saw this watch and I was like, oh my God, I love this watch. And again, but I was drawn to the white dial because they do a very nice white dial, which sort of reminds you of like the Omega Seamaster a little bit, because it has like the lines on the dial, but it's white. So I saw the white and I was like, ooh, I was torn with the white. And then my friends who were with me, they're like, Nisha, you can get a white watch anywhere. Like you don't, but this is something that's so unique. You should get this. Even though it's a bit more expensive, get this one because no one else can say they've gotten this. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want to be so flashy. I already bought a flashy Zelos. I don't want another flashy watch. And they're like, actually, it's not that flashy. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to think about it. So I put the watch down, did a circuit around the rest of the show, looked at some other different pieces that I thought I would pick up. And my friends kept telling me, Nisha, you know, that watch, you should get it, you should get it, you should get it. And I'm not the type that usually gets influenced to buy a watch very easily because I'm quite picky. But this was the one watch that was the exception where I basically got enabled to buy it. And I will say it's actually not as flashy as I thought it was because some people mistake it for a black dial watch. Like unless they really look at it, nobody really notices the watch. So I will say this was a very interesting pickup. Not something I would have got either because I don't like gilt dials. Like a lot of the gilt dials, like if you see a Tudor Black Bay, they have the black and the gilt. Yeah. That's not my personal favorite. But when I saw this, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to get it. So that's the story of me getting that watch. So yeah, so I call it the watch enabler gets enabled. So this is the story behind that watch.
Yeah, I like Formex. One of my other guests from Germany, he introduced me to Formex, and I've been looking into them since then. And I do like their watches. I think they're about to launch a new model as well.
Yes, yes, they have a limited edition that just came out, which is with a Scottish podcast, I think. That's an aventurine dial. Yeah. I think that's their first aventurine that they've done. And I don't know if they're doing a new one. I am on the Formex group as well, so I do kind of check in and see what's going on. But I've seen the Aventurine. That's a very pretty watch. The only thing I don't quite like is the way they've integrated the date. Because it's all Aventurine on the dial, and then you see that cutout at the 6. It looks a little, I don't know, to me, maybe I'm a bit OCD. It looks a little weird, off for me.
Yeah.
I would like to have seen it without the date and have it full Aventurine, so that would give more real estate to the dial. But I understand Formex, again, their own design language, and they always have the date at the 6, so makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. Like every Aventurine dial needs to be like clean with minimal objects on the dial. But I've seen Aventurine with like dates, with like open heart, with like moon phase and stuff like that, and that kind of kills the effect of the dial.
Yeah, I think that was my biggest issue with the Formex in particular, because I think they make the date so prominent on the dial where it's a real cutout and it's very, very obvious. Whereas I think Zelos actually did do a pretty decent Aventurine with the Nova, but I think they didn't have a date. I'm not sure if it has a date on the new one. I don't think so.
I can't recall.
The new one may not have a date, but I think if they did what Zelos did, where they just had full Aventurine and just had that small seconds, it wouldn't take away from the. I feel it's competing with the dial. That's what I think. I think it competes with the dial.
Yeah,
whereas
definitely.
with like my watch, because it's gilt, so they made the date window gilt, it blends into the rest. So yeah.
Cool. I am talking to the founder of Formex, Rafael.
Yes.
And hopefully he should be free by December to come on the podcast. Because he's traveling. He's traveling at the minute.
I'm surprised you got him on the podcast. That's a coup in itself.
Yeah, I think so far we've just had a placeholder that he said, "Oh, let's circle back in December and then we'll discuss the date." So hopefully, I'm hoping early next year.
He's a cool guy. It was very nice meeting him actually at the fair this year, and actually getting to talk to him and picking his brains on how did he decide to do things the way he did. And again, this is an Essence 39, which is out of my comfort zone in wearing watches because I'm usually 38. 39 is, I've only had maybe one other 39 millimeter, but I sold it. So I was a little reluctant also because of the size, but it wears, again, the way he's designed it with that suspension system and everything, it's very comfortable to wear. I will say one of the most comfortable watches out there, I think, for the money, I think.
Yeah, definitely. They're nice watches. Cool. Thanks for showing us your amazing watches.
Yep.
As you know, all the enthusiasts have wish list. So
Yes.
tell us a bit about your wish list. What do you have in your wish list for the next maybe 2 years?
Okay, 2 years is reasonable because I think this year, I think I'm done. I think I'm done for this year. I will say I have always wanted a Grand Seiko. That's been on my wish list for a while. And I just think the dial work and I just love a good dial and the way they integrate things. I know some people don't like the spring drives with the power reserve on that weird angle. I actually like those. I actually think, and again, maybe because I'm biased, it's my favorite complication. So I would like a Grand Seiko. That would definitely be on my list that's reasonable to get, I will say. Other than that, I think I was looking at the new Tudors that came out at Watches and Wonders. I just want to see how it wears because I feel with Tudor sometimes they either do the lug to lugs too long or the dial is just maybe it looks too big for the size. So I am looking at the new Tudor because I like the new movement that they've made with the additional power. The other watch, but this is further out, I will say, because it's still too expensive for me. I do want the Zenith El Primero. I was looking at that, which is the chronograph, and they do have a 38, but for some reason that 38 price has gone up. It used to be below 10,000, and now it's gone way up. So I'm not. It's a grail. It's a grail at this point. Whether I'll be able to reasonably afford it, maybe not, but it's always been on my mind, that watch. Yeah, so those would be the two. So I would say the Grand Seiko would be the immediate one that I would really love to add to the collection. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there are some Omegas that caught my eye a little bit, but not enough to pull the trigger. But I will definitely say Grand Seiko for sure, if you talk immediate 2 years.
Yeah. Have you looked into the new Rolex, the one with the blue dial?
Ooh, I'm so maybe I'm going to offer a bit of a controversial take here, but I'm not a big fan of Rolex. I'm not. There's some. I don't know. It's not. They make nice watches. Don't get me wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way they make watches, but I think in terms of whether it speaks to me as a brand and it just doesn't speak to me that way. So
Yeah.
I don't really pay too much. I mean, I do pay attention to it just to see, but not my favorite. Not my favorite, I will say. So
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure which one are you referring to. Are you referring to the Date Just or the?
No,
or
I
the
think
sports
it's
model
one of
lines?
it's one of the latest ones. I can't remember the model number now, but
Okay.
I mean, it's one of the dress watches that they've just launched.
Okay, okay, because I know they got rid of the Cellini line, so I'm wondering which one that would be because they did say they were discontinuing the Cellini, and then they were going to just really focus on the Date Just, and then of course their sports lines. So that I don't know the one you speak of. I must check that out. I don't really pay too much attention to Rolex, as I say, but that would be interesting to check out. I'm more of an Omega. I prefer Omega to be very honest. So I will say if I were to go down that route, like that Swiss route, I would go. I do like the Omega Aquaterra. I will say I do like the Aquaterra line a lot.
Yeah, they're
So,
nice. I like Aquaterra and the Seamaster.
but which one are you? Are you? Do you like both Rolex? And where do you stand on that? Are you more?
I don't mind Rolexes, but the way I see the brand evolving, If I see the pieces from 90s, I think they had more innovation than the pieces now. I think
Yeah.
they've gone from beautiful looking watches to more, I wouldn't say ugly, but not very beautiful looking watches.
I think they focused a lot on their sports lines. I think they did more on the Yachtmaster, Submariners, those types. I think they focused a lot on that. The Cellini line was actually not bad. I think it wasn't a terrible line to have, but I don't know why they got rid of it, because that was their dress watch line. So maybe it just didn't do well. Maybe it was just something that they didn't. And Rolex is known for its marketing, and you'd be surprised not many people know that line very well.
Yeah.
And then when people say, "Oh, Rolex is discontinuing that," I think most people they had such a thing. Like, is that really something that existed? So yeah, so that's interesting. Interesting take, because I think for me, Rolex to me, I never thought was a dressy watch. I always felt it was more sporty. But I think because the way people wear their Rolex is like almost like an everyday watch. So
Yeah.
I think that's where it's kind of evolved, I think, for me.
Yeah. I think the only Rolex if I buy a Rolex, would ever buy is a Daytona.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Which one? White dial? Like, would you go like the white dial?
Yeah, I would go for the Panda one. Yeah.
I had I remember I was talking to someone at work, and they said, like, if I was to ever buy a Rolex, but this was a girl, so this response would make sense. I want the rainbow Daytona. I said, "Are you crazy?" I said, "That watch is expensive." She's like, "Yeah, but that's the only one I want, because it's rose gold and it's decked. It's like totally decked in jewels." So
Yeah.
I know that is a very big grail piece for quite a few people. I've not seen it in person, but it is very flashy. It looks like a very flashy watch. So,
Yeah, definitely. All the Rolexes are flashy, and
but I think a Daytona is a bit too big. I don't know why, but when I see people wear it, maybe it's because most of the time I see it on men's wrists, it looks okay. But I think if I were as a 6-inch wrist, I put that on, it will just look too big on me, I think. Even though they say, oh, proportionally, it's one of the best designed Rolexes, I think it'll be too big on me.
yeah, I have this thing for big dials. I like big dials. I don't like. I've tried using like 38, 39s, but I just don't. I just feel because my hands are really long as well. It just feels smaller.
Yeah. Yeah. I have the opposite problem. I have very short hands, so I think if I were to wear a big watch, it would just look bigger than it is. I used to wear 42s and 41 mils before, and I'm thinking to myself, would I ever go back and wear that size anymore? And the answer honestly is no, because especially once I've discovered smaller watches and getting into the hobby and finding things that fit me better, especially when you know how to figure out the watch that fits.
Yeah,
that was a game changer for me. Once I figured out, oh, it's about the length of the watch, it's not just the dial size. That was a total game changer for me.
definitely. It needs to be comfortable. Cool. So you've got some really nice watches in your wish list. I hope you're able to get your Grand Seiko soon.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Next 2 years, right? 2 years.
Cool. And to wrap things up, what advice would you give someone who's starting into this hobby?
Okay, as I'm a relative newbie to the hobby myself, and I'm still learning the hobby, I'm still learning a lot. I'm not by any means an expert, but I will say there's no such thing as a perfect collection. Don't think that you're heading towards perfection. Your tastes will evolve as you find more brands, as you find more things, and just follow that. Follow where your taste goes, because that will lead you to discover more. And I find once you discover more, you will narrow down your taste and you will naturally find what you like. And Also, don't buy too much into the hype around watches sometimes. Like I know, especially, we talked about brands like Zelos who are very, very hyped up micro brands, and, they, whenever there's a drop, like you said, it sells out most of the time. I think sometimes as a new watch enthusiast, you feel you've missed out, especially with watches like that. I'm just saying, don't kind of follow the hype into that. Find some, if a brand produces something that you genuinely like and it genuinely speaks to you, then get it. Don't go into the hype. I made that mistake maybe the first 2 years into collecting. I bought into the old Seiko Alpinist hype. So I was very much, when they produced because I love that compass bezel, and I was like, oh, it's so cool and everything. And I bought one from an authorized dealer. Loved the watch, but I totally didn't take into account how it would wear on me and how it would fit. So that's another thing I would say. Learn how a watch wears on you. Learn things like lug to lug. How does it sit? Where do you like to wear where do you like to wear your watch? That's the other thing. Figure out your preferences, test things out, and see what works for you, because people may give you advice on what works, but at the end of the day, that's the advice that worked for us. It may not necessarily work for you.
Yeah.
And I will say, just enjoy the journey of collecting. Just enjoy it. Don't limit yourself. Enjoy how things go. And obviously be financially responsible. Don't go into debt buying a watch, because buying watches for investments is a risky business. And I'm not a financial professional, but I will say that buy a watch that you can reasonably afford. Don't go into debt for this hobby. Don't do that, because that happened to me and I would never wish that upon anybody. So always be responsible. And if you see a watch you like and you know that it's out of your budget, save towards it, because I will tell you, when you get that watch after saving for it and actually getting it, you will appreciate it a lot more than just getting into debt and getting into issues. That would be my advice.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And I think what I would like to add to that is one should always get a watch to sort of hit a milestone in their life, or
That's
to
also
remember
fair
a
point.
memory or something like that. They shouldn't just buy the watch to fill up a box, for example. Like
True.
every watch should have a story. So, for example, I hit my first milestone of 100 subscribers last week.
Oh, congratulations.
And I was just talking to my wife, and I was like, I just got a brilliant idea. I should give myself a challenge because I have hit 100 subscribers, keep my budget around £100 and get a watch around that price to mark the milestone and keep that watch in my collection. And that's what I did last week. I bought the watch. I'm not going to say now on the podcast which one.
No, don't say it.
Because I'm going to be revealing that watch in my next video when it arrives.
Nice. I think that's a great idea. I think buying a watch to commemorate a milestone is always good. I did that actually last year when I got a promotion at my job, and I had a watch that I saw again at Wind Up Watch Fair the previous year, and I saw that watch and I said, okay, I want that watch. And now when I see that watch today, I'm like, that's the watch I got for that milestone. And you appreciate it. You appreciate it a lot more when it has a story or a milestone attached to it. But I also think, you should buy watches you also like. Like, for example, I love the Hamilton Khaki Murph. Like, I loved that watch when it came out. And not just because of the movie tie-in to Interstellar, but it was just the watch itself just looked really great, very basic. And I like very versatile watches. And it was reasonably priced, but it was 41. It was too big for me. Yeah. I couldn't wear it. It was 41. Finally, 2 years later, they came out with a 38. So that I was like, okay, great. And it was still reasonably priced because it's a Hamilton. I saved money for it. I didn't buy it immediately. I saved up for it and I bought it. And I'm like, okay, this is another watch that it doesn't have a story to it. It's just a watch that I liked, but
Yeah.
I was fiscally responsible and bought it to that. It's always better to have a story behind a watch, and you always like to be able to tell a story behind a watch, but sometimes not every watch has that story, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes you just want things, don't you, as a human being,
Yes. Yes.
by nature. I think that's okay as long as you're not getting yourself into trouble by
Oh, yeah.
putting yourself in a situation where you don't have the money and you take a loan out for a watch or something like that,
Oh, yeah.
and then
you don't want to do
you
that.
can't pay for it, and then that becomes like a bad experience for you. But if you save up for a watch and then buy the watch, then it feels more like an accomplishment to you.
Yeah. And also another PSA, if you're ever buying a watch from a forum or anything like that, I will say always buy the seller. Always make sure you buy the seller. And if a price of a watch is too good to be true, don't buy it. Don't buy it. Always make sure you ask the seller all the questions you may have. And if you feel that something is off about a watch, chances are you're right. Buy it from legitimate places if you can. And even if you have to go gray market, I mean, Joma Shop is a good spot for gray market, but it comes with the warranty. It doesn't get warranted by the dealer, it gets warranted by Joma Shop. So that's always know your pros and cons when you're buying watches as well, because I think people forget that there's so many places to buy watches now. I think before the whole going to an AD and buying a watch, that's completely changed. Now people can buy it, like I said, Joma Shop, Chrono24, eBay. There's so many places that you can buy watches from now that I think you don't know which is the best place, right? And I'll always say, look, an AD is always the most reliable because it's an AD. You know that they are meant to carry the watches. They will insure it. They will make sure it's fixed. If you can, go to an AD. But if you go, gray market or second hand, just make sure you ask like, hey, what's the warranty on the watch? Is there still a warranty on the watch? Because some watches have only 1 year warranty. Zelos, good example, 1 year.
Yeah.
So is the watch within warranty? What's the service history? Things like that. These are things I only learned later on. So that's also something I would say new watch collectors should know, because I got burned a couple of times buying watches from places that probably were not the best, and then only to find that the watches had Frankenstein parts.
Yeah.
I had a watch that was a Seiko, but then I was like, this doesn't look right. Got it checked. They had taken out and they had messed around with it, and they had not told me it was a modded watch. They had not told me it was a modded watch. So things like that. You always buy the seller as well. Because there are a lot, as much as there are very good people out there, you should know, being on the Zelos forums that are very good, and even the Formex forums are pretty good as well. There are some bad apples out there in this hobby as well.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people buying watches and selling watches on Facebook communities as well. So if you are buying watches from those communities, make sure you do your research and don't be shy posting about that user, and check with other members of the community, because someone from that community might have dealt with them. And I've seen people doing that, and a lot of people validate the checks that they have dealt with this person before, and he's good to go.
And I think that's another thing, because watch forums are also a place, right? They're also a place where you can buy and sell watches as well. And you need to buy the seller. As long as you know that the seller is legit, you're fine. And I think for me, because I was new to Zelos when I bought my Zelos from the forum, actually. So that's how I got it. I bought it off the forum. And the guy, the reason he took a punt on me, because I was a new member to the group, and the reason he took a punt on me was because I was regularly posting in the group, and I was quite active and talking to people and asking questions and all that. And he said only because I saw you were like very active in the group and you were posting, that I took a punt on you because he had someone else that wanted to buy the watch as well.
Yeah.
But the reason he bought me as a buyer was because I was, you have to do that too. I think that's the other thing that people don't realize, that if you're a first time buyer from a forum, you need to make yourself also legit in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's really important if you're a part of any community, to make sure that you're providing the value to the community as well as getting value out of it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that would be I think that would be I think we covered most of the important things. And I'll say just enjoy the hobby. Enjoy the hobby. It's a hobby at the end of the day. It's not, you're not in a competition, and everyone's collection is going to be different. Your collection should be a reflection of you and your taste. It shouldn't be a reflection of what other people say you should get.
Yeah, keep it simple and don't complicate things.
I mean, I don't know. Have you ever gone through this where, you've seen a watch and everybody else is wearing it and you feel that you should buy it because everybody else is wearing it? Have you ever experienced that, I think?
I'm kind of opposite. I want I want watches that no one's wearing.
Ah, okay.
I want things different than everyone else. So I never buy.
Maybe that should be an advice for others too.
Yeah.
Like if you find you like watches that people don't regularly like, that's okay. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
You're lucky because I fell into a couple of hypes, and yeah, no, it was. I ended up, the watch ended up sitting in my box and I didn't use it. And
Yeah.
I'm the type. I don't know if have you heard of this YouTuber called Peter Kotze, who does he does watch content. He's Australian. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
I actually learned from him because he tries to keep his collection down to 12 watches, or was it 8? I forget if it was 8 or 12, and I think it was 8. So I think I followed his advice because I liked his thinking around, like, I want to buy watches that I know I'm going to wear. I don't want to keep my watches in a box and not wear them. Mm-hmm. So for me, I took his advice and I was like, okay, you know what? The watches I have, it's not about the price, it's whether I wear it or not. And if I find that I'm not wearing a watch, maybe for a month or so, I'm like, okay, this watch needs to go.
Yeah.
Because if you're not wearing it for a month or 2 months, and this is my criteria, by the way, just for your audience's thing, this is my criteria. I'm a little bit more stringent, but say if you do 3 months of not wearing a watch,
Yeah.
you know it's probably not the watch for you if you're not wearing it. So you're better off just selling that watch, making a little bit of money off of that, and putting it towards a watch you want.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
That's the thing.
Cool. That's some really good advice for anyone starting into this collection journey.
Yeah, because I'm still new. I'm still new to this hobby as well compared to, many of the people you've talked to. I'm very new to this. So I'm still learning and I'm still making mistakes as I go.
Yeah. I think it doesn't really matter how deep you are into this hobby. I think you're always learning new things. So I always refer myself as a newbie, although I'm doing it for a while. I still feel like I learned something. Either it's about a new brand, or a new watch, or a new movement, or something you learn every single day. So I think it's good to be learning all the time.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Nisha, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully we should be able to bring you again to see the rest of your watch collection, and especially your Grand Seiko when it comes.
Fingers crossed.
Cool. I hope you have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Nice. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you like and share this video, and subscribe the channel for more amazing content like this. See you in the next one.